review and run through of what you can expect with this question type. First off, you'll have to fill in missing words of a form, an outline, or a table. Now, the note and form examples are quite similar, but today we'll be going over two examples. One will be a form and the other will be a note and table. So you'll see the differences, although the strategy for all three of these is the same. So you'll have to fill in these missing words, and the gaps may appear anywhere in the sentence or on the form or in the piece of writing that you have on your visual aid. If you are familiar with the sentence completion question type, we have a video on that as well, but this is different because in that question type, gaps are usually seen at the end. In this case, the gaps can be anywhere, really. And it does not always feature full sentences. This is perhaps one of the main reasons why this question type appears to be so simple. You are just writing in blanks of points or times or gaps, not necessarily full sentences. However, it still is a bit challenging. Of course, we're going to use the scanning technique. So we're going to pull out our keywords before we listen, and we're going to listen for these important words that will call our attention to the answers. And you can expect to start from the top of your note, form, or table and go all the way to the bottom. So in other words, you can expect that this will be in order. Now here's a guide for what we're going to be doing today. And this guide is a bit different than the other question types, so pay attention. First off, we're going to read the information and become familiar with the type of visual aid we have. We're going to use the visual aid to our advantage. Now, as we read, we should be underlining keywords. This step is going to be minimal. So I would suggest combining it with step number 1, reading the information. Now, as we listen to the listening prompt, we're going to take notes according to the section. Today, we're going to be in 2 different sections. But unlike the other question types, we really wouldn't suggest making a separate outline or chart for this type of question. You should really just write directly on your visual aid or keep an outline on your visual aid. This question type is usually going to be with a monologue in section 2 or a conversation in section 1 in most cases. Of course, anything can really happen, but you can expect that this question will be in sections 1 or sections 2. We'll go through the strategy for taking notes in just 1 minute, but be aware that you'll write directly on the visual aid or right next to it. And of course, since you're going to be writing out words, it's extremely important to be accurate. You want to pay attention to how many words you need to write, 1 word, up to 3 words. This will vary. And you want to make sure that you're writing in a legible manner. We suggest all capital letters. We'll be looking at sections 1 and 2. Our first example will be in section 1. And with section 1, you can expect to hear a conversation between 2 people. And the topic will be a general, an everyday topic. Generally, we would use the chart system for this to take our notes. But since we have a visual aid today, either a form, a table, or notes to fill in, we're going to work directly on the visual aid. Of course, we can keep a chart right next to it, or we can make a couple of columns just to get the information clear, but I'll take you through this in our example in just a bit. This section is known for being one of the easiest sections, if not the easiest, because it's a general topic. Our second example will feature section 2, and now this section is a monologue, so you'll hear only one person speaking. Just like section 1, it will be a general topic, and so you'll have to follow key information in the monologue. An outline system is really best for keeping all this information clear, but the visual aid will probably already be in some sort of outline or note fashion, so we can take a small outline down right next to the visual aid, and we'll go through this together as well. Okay, let's get started with our first example. All right, so here is our first example. we see a form. So this is questions 1 through 8. Complete the form below. And it's some sort of form for a shipping agency, so that's good to know. But it's very important to note the directions, which we see right here. Write no more than 3 words and or a number. So that is our limit for the answers. Now, before we start listening, I just want to emphasize the fact that this is already in a nice outlined fashion for us. And remember, this is section 1. So we're going to hear a conversation between 2 people. Now, usually we would encourage you to make a chart so that you can understand what one person is saying over the other. In this case, you could still make a chart if you'd like to, but notice how the answers come from the top to the bottom, which we can expect everything to come in order. The keywords are here for us. And this specific question type is not asking us for specific details regarding each speaker. Instead, it's asking us for information like name and town. So I would not worry about making a chart in this case. Remember, this question type is a bit different than the rest. What I would do is make notes right here next to your visual aid and fill in the information as necessary because everything is labeled for you. That's why this question type is generally considered to be pretty easy. So before we listen, we're going to take some time to read the information and underline our key words. Keywords in this case are very minimal and they're quite simple. It will just be this information here that we're reading. So in this case, it would be best to do this at the same time. We're going to read the information and underline the keywords. So again, it's going to be a shipping agency. Okay, this is a customer quotation form. So we can expect one person to be the customer and the other person to be perhaps a customer service representative or someone from Packham's shipping agency. Now, an example has been done for us. The country of destination is Kenya. Let's go ahead and read down below. We see name is Jacob, and you see how there is something here. Now, Jacob is a first name, so we can be on the lookout for a surname. So that's good to remember here. We have address to be collected from, and we already have a city perhaps or an address because this would be RD. So we'll have to look for information here. We have the town as Bristol, and we'll need a postcode. Now, if you're familiar with postcodes, you should know that they could be either numbers or letters. So this is very important here. And now we have the size of container. So the keywords would be size and container. We see length quite simply as 1.5 meters, width and height. Now you might expect to hear something like how wide is it or how high is it? So be aware of these synonyms. However, you can expect that numbers will be here for 4 and 5, just like the length. Now we're almost finished. We go to contents. Now we see something with clothes. So you can expect the speaker to say 3 different things. 1 will be clothes, and then we'll have 6 and 7. Remember, when you have questions like this, you do not necessarily have to put them in the order that you hear them. So for example, something could go in 6 just as it could go in 7. There is not one specific answer for 6, and there is not one specific answer for 7. So that actually works out in our favor. And then the last one is the total estimated value. Very important for the total here, we're going to need a number as this is pounds. And that's it. That is the information here and the keywords that we need to look for. I even did this a bit slower than I normally would, just so that everything was clear. So you could do this very quickly in your 20 seconds. Now here on the right-hand side, we can ignore that for now. I am going to paste the transcript after we listen to this when we go ahead and check our answers. In these boxes, I will be typing my notes as we listen together, and then I'll simply drag and drop these boxes to the area that I would write it in during the actual test. just trying to make the most use of our visual aid today. At home, you can go ahead and follow along with us, maybe writing your notes on a separate piece of paper, or if you have printed this out or if you have access to this visual aid, you can write along as I'm going to be, just so it's clear for you. Most of all, pay attention to your keywords and do not lose track. Okay, let's start listening.
You will hear a telephone conversation between a customer and an agent at a company which ships large boxes overseas.
Good morning, Packham's shipping agents. Can I help you?
Oh, yes. I'm ringing to make inquiries about sending a large box, a container, back home to Kenya from the UK.
Yes, of course. Would you like me to try and find some quotations for you?
Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I need a few details from you.
Fine.
Can I take your name?
It's Jacob Mkere.
Can you spell your surname, please?
Yes, it's Mkere.
Is that M for mother?
Yes.
Thank you. And you say that you will be sending the box to Kenya?
That's right.
And where would you like the box picked up from?
From college, if possible.
Yes, of course. I'll take down the address now.
It's Westall College.
Is that Westall?
Yes, college.
Westall College. And where's that?
It's Downlands Road in Bristol.
Oh, yes, I know it. And the postcode?
It's BS8 9PU.
Right. And I need to know the size.
Yes, I've measured it carefully and it's 1.5 meters long,
Right.
0.75 meters wide,
Okay.
and it's 0.5 meters high or deep.
Great. So I'll calculate the volume in a moment and get some quotes for that. But first, can you tell me, very generally, what will be in the box?
Yes, there's mostly clothes
Okay.
and there's some books.
Okay, good. Anything else?
Yes, there's also some toys.
Okay, and what is the total value, do you think, of the contents?
Well, the main costs are the clothes and the books. They'll be about £1,500. But then the toys are about another 200. So I'd put down £1,700.
Okay, excellent. I hope you were able to follow along with that, and I hope you were able to recognize just how simple this question type was. Now, I have my notes here in these boxes. I hope you were able to see when I was typing and when I moved them over. Before we even start checking this, I just want to go over this last one here, the total estimated value. We'll look at the wording and the transcript later when we look at our answers, but you notice how there were 3 numbers here. Now, I wrote all 3 of these numbers just because I was taking notes and I didn't want to miss anything. But I know that only the last number was correct. So this is a common trick, and this is sort of one of those difficulties with this question type, is to include many letters, many numbers, and then only include the correct answer at the end. So in this case, I would eliminate or put a line through these 2 options and only write 1,700 on my answer sheet. All right, we'll look at that at the end. Right now, I would like to just focus on the answers up here and understanding some of these explanations and the strategy. So the notes I had here, large box and UK to Kenya, these are just for my own notes because I was taking a lot of notes just as I was going and I didn't want to miss anything. You don't have to write this, I just wanted to get into the habit. On the right, we'll be able to see all of the transcript as we continue on, but the answers are in red. So as we go on, I will just keep moving and scrolling on up. Now, first off, we have the name. So Jacob and a surname. Now, this is quite a difficult surname to pronounce. And usually when we have this sort of question type in section 1, there will be some sort of name. The answer will be spelled out for you more than likely, just because it's a bit difficult to spell special nouns like this that are not actually words, they're names. So don't be surprised if the names are always spelled out for you. This is so you can understand your letters and write down notes as they are spelled. So this question, number 1, tested our ability to write down letters and keep up with the pace of the speaker. So Jacob McKeer, M-K-E-R-E. And the speaker said, is that M for mother? Just to make sure that it's clear for the test taker, it's M, not M. And yes, it is. So this is a common spelling question. You'll more than likely see this on the exam. So it might be a good idea to brush up on your spelling while you're at it. Now, we can go ahead and just eliminate this so we have more room on our transcript side. And let's look at number 2. She goes, I'll take down the address now. So the address was one of our keywords. Perfect. And he says it's Westall College. I went ahead and just typed it as I assumed it was spelled, and I was correct, but this will also be spelled out for you because it is not a word, it's a name. So we have W-E-S-T-A-L-L, College, Downlands Road. Perfect. Then we had the town as Bristol. The postcode, as I said earlier, is a mix of letters and numbers in this case. Same thing, it will be spelled out for you. BS8-9PU. Then they go directly into the size of the container. Now I just want to make these 2 answers a bit bigger because this is a common trick and I want to see if you have caught my deliberate trick here. Now I've made this a bit bigger so we can see, and I want to take you through the options. Now notice how length says 1.5 m for meters. Now since we're talking about a width or a height or a specific number, these answers are not sufficient. And I'm wondering if you have done the same thing on your own or if you did something a bit different. It's a common mistake to write just the number, and it would not be completely correct in this case. You have to include the meter. So you'd have to put either an M or you could put meters with the American spelling, okay? Now the meter is fine. You could also write the S for meters, or you could also do the European spelling. So this one here is the American spelling, and you could also do the European spelling. There are many ways to do this, but just make sure that you have some sort of note for the meter because 0.75 on its own is not completely correct. Now I would stick with exactly what the speaker says. Now he said 0.75 meters, and he also says wide. So if you wanted to, you could write 0.75 meters wide because that would still fit in your no more than 3 words and a number guideline, because 0.75 is one number, meters is one word, and wide is another. And so that would just cut it. That would be completely correct. You could also just write 0.75 meters, but you cannot write only 0.75. So keep that in mind. And the same thing goes here for height, 0.5 meters. And he says 0.5 meters high or deep. Now, you could not write 0.5 meters high or deep. You could not write this exact answer because it is more than 3 words and or a number. So that would be incorrect. And that's why you'd have to put 0.5 meters high as one, or another possibility could be 0.5 meters deep, but you could not write all 4 of these words. Now going on to the contents, he says that there were some clothes, and then we have books, and she says anything else, and he said toys. So we have number 6 and number 7. Remember, you could also put toys as number 6 and books as number 7, as I've just done here as well. You could also write some toys and some books. That's fine because, again, no more than 3 words and or a number, and placing some in this answer does not change the meaning, so it would be completely fine. Total estimated value, again, It's a common trick to add more numbers than necessary. So if we look here in the transcript, the first thing we heard was 1,500, and so I went ahead and wrote that. Then we heard another 200, so I went ahead and wrote that. And then it said, I'd put down 1,700. And the key word here is total value, which the speaker also said, total value. So we have to pay attention to that total value of 1,700. All right, I hope you did well here. It was quite simple in that we started from the beginning at the top and went all the way to the bottom. And we really used our keywords to our advantage. So excellent job.